Good evening. This is the first of hopefully several webinars that we'll be doing for the community at St. Mark's. And tonight we'll be looking into homeschooling. Many of you now have your children at home, and while you have benefited through the school preparing lessons for them, you still have to assist them. And that that can be a problem sometime on how to make your child successful, how to help your child be successful. Well, tonight we have Christine Burkett, and I am so excited that she is here. And I am, because she is just an incredible person. Incredible teacher. Hold on one moment. Jordan, I think you are here.
Yay!
Yay, Jordan.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Jordan. Hi. Christine has been a teacher for 18 years. She has taught first, second, and third grade. She was the interim children's minister at St. Mark's and did an incredible job. And she set the bar very high for us. And I don't know that anyone will ever come up to it, to be honest. Her passion for children and to helping them grow in faith and academia is truly, truly evident. And she has been my resource in questions concerning how Smed's Chapel and preparing for that, as well as just basic questions on what kind of books would a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old might like together. And so I want to welcome Christine Burkett. Thank you so much for being with us and our first of our webinars. Jordan, can you hear us or?
Yes.
Okay, good. You are unmuted at present time because it's the three of us. As we get more, I may mute you. And what I would ask you to do, there's a little thing somewhere where
I see a mute.
All right, you see a mute. I may mute you on occasion or something if we get more and more people. And if you have a question, I will come to a segment where I'll unmute everybody and we can try to ask questions that way. There's also supposedly something that you can send a wave if you can, or you can, I think, send a message to me and I will go ahead. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm actually going to mute myself because the kids are in and out of this room because we're kind of eating dinner while I'm watching this.
Oh, okay. Sure. So
I'm going to go ahead and mute myself.
Okay, great.
So if I'm not muted, then y'all tell me.
Okay. Okay. All righty. You're actually muted, so that's great. All right. Christine, how can you set up your learner for success? I mean, we all want our children to be successful. So how can you set up your child for success in this new environment of learning?
Right. We've definitely found ourselves in an interesting place. I think when we're thinking about setting up the at-home school environment for success, we need to kind of model it after a classroom, just to the effect of each learner has a home base. Each learner knows where their supplies are, being well stocked, and have all the things you might possibly need on hand is important. And I feel like that's a step we would have gotten through by now, being that we've done this for a number of weeks. But at this point, if you're still struggling, you need to kind of think about what that work zone is for your child. Is it something that seems to be working? Is it something that maybe they could use a little more quiet, or maybe an eyeball on them, just in proximity, kind of looking? I think based on your learner and their needs, you'll know if their workstation is working. If it is not working, start thinking about some outside of the box things. A child does not need to be in a desk. A child can move around, they can stand, they can lay on the floor, they can do whatever you feel is helping them stay focused and engaged. Now, your goal here is obviously to have everything they need on hand, but to make it important and have your child understand that this is truly school time and their job. So other than that, I think just kind of being sure that your child has everything on hand that they need.
Okay, I love the fact that you say that you let them know that it is their job.
Mhm.
because I think a lot of kids don't really understand that, or they think
Right.
it's the school.
Right. Or that because we're at home, you can take it much lighter.
Right.
There's a casual approach that kind of comes with being in business on top on a screen and your pajama bottoms on the bottom. And so with that said, I think just having some discussions about the nature of why we're doing what we're doing. You know, I mean, this is an unprecedented situation we're in where the whole world is homeschooling. And
Right.
so some real conversations that they could understand would be, you've got to know that your teacher's working hard to keep you on track. You've got to know that in place of all those school days that you've always spent, this is the time when the expectation is here. And this is not, you know, time for you to see how far you can push the bar, or to see, you know, how much you can get out of doing. I think that there's definitely, I've seen that tendency with my two, without a doubt. There has to be a constant discussion about, it is important, we're doing it for a reason, and the expectations are the same as your teacher would have. You can even go with that old rule of thumb: if you wouldn't say it to your teacher or grandmother, don't say it in distance learning. So, you know, I mean, just really helping them understand, because it doesn't feel like it. It feels all kind of like play. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, it does. I mean, even the meetings that I've been on, it's felt a little bit like that, for sure, for sure. Well, all right. So how do you get ready? How do you get ready for that?
That's a good, okay, so we actually start, and this I think will kind of dial back to your time in what I would call normal life. We're still being purposeful about getting ready the night before. Like, truly keep to that bedtime routine, keep to the Bed Bath Beyond, your story time, however you do your night. But we're even going so far each night to look over both H and Mamie's schedule for the upcoming day, because it does fluctuate. So we'll kind of look through the schedule, and then we'll, they both need to wear a shirt. And I know that that's a minimum requirement. They need to wear a t-shirt for their school. And so they pick that out and they put it out just like they would have their clothes or their uniform, so that they intentionally understand, I am getting ready for a school day, even if my pajamas are on the bottom. They'll look through and they'll notice, you know, we kind of pull materials based on whatever courses they're going to have coming up that day. And this is really, if you start with this the night before, it's going to be your best start for a good morning. Sometimes when we're not leaving our houses and we're not going through that act of going through carpool and getting out and walking into your classroom and packing, it's a very different start. So if you truly like intentionally kind of dial it back that night before. Hi, Cortland. So if you dial it back, hi, Mary Carol, or Helen. Okay, so if you just kind of really truly get them ready the night before, and again, the goal here is so that your child feels prepared for what's coming at them the next day. When they feel more prepared, then they're feeling more empowered.
Great. Well, that's really good, because that's something that we all need to do. Even hi, Jordan, we can see you now. Even you know, for people who are doing for adults who are going to Zoom meetings and stuff. So
yeah,
so it's important, you said, to preview the expectations for the day. What are you doing there? Are you setting?
Well, you know, I mean, it's kind of, yeah, well, and so when we talk about the importance of previewing this, to kind of dig a little deeper, it's you're hitting a reset button every day.
Okay.
And we're doing this, I find, at breakfast. And we are taking some time to intentionally compliment them on what we've noticed them doing well. You know, whether it's getting started on their own, or staying focused throughout a time, or finishing assignments in an appropriate time. So we really try to draw on some of the good, find some positives to talk about, and then give some constructive feedback on what you've noticed they're doing, whether it's, you know, maybe twirling around in the chair constantly rather than actually doing whatever they're supposed to be doing. But some constructive criticism helps. It helps when you're at breakfast that morning before your school day starts, to talk about what's going really well, and to point out some things that you feel like they could work on. And also ask them if they feel like they need any help. If there are questions that they still have, or if there's areas where they feel like they could do a better job, these would be a good time for you guys to talk about that. I think that's a good time to set goals as well for the day. And so the goal being, the overarching goal of that, to do that in the morning, that reset button, is to help them. You're coaching them constantly. You're wanting them to kind of build each day. And I know that people have seen their children kind of build into some routine where they have, over these weeks, I hope they're starting to see their child becoming more responsible and autonomous in their work, being able to do things on their own.
Okay. Well, what about when you preview and you set the goals? You know, so often I will tell you that I will want to hover a little bit. I would want to do that. How can we not do that and really allow them the space, you know, in their little areas in which to really engage?
Well, and the tendency, I think, with this being now at home and the onus being put on us, is the tendency is to want to go side by side and dovetail with them through this process. There are very young learners who are going to need more of a constant togetherness to implement it, to make it happen, to keep them focused on task. But there are, I would say, first grade and beyond, you should be able to pretty much follow along and be responsible for what's being asked of you without hand-holding. I think that we all tend to want to micromanage, and we feel like we need to be helping them through this, but the teachers are actually working hard to equip them and make sure they're catering tasks to things that can be done. There's a level of independence expected in a classroom. And so that level is expected. And of course, you know your child and you know your learner, and they might not be, the confidence might not be there with math. And that might be somewhere that you really want to foster with them and spend extra time, or if they need extra time in science or reading, that of course will happen naturally like it always does. But a rule of thumb would be to help them really strive for that independence. And if it's not coming, and 4 weeks into this, if it hasn't arrived yet, it's time to call your teacher.
Okay.
You know, and reach out to her, email her, and she's a resource. She will.
Oh, yes. Well, what can you share about helping your learner work through a long list of tasks?
Okay, so this is a big one. So this is a pretty big one. You know,
for that, I'm going to let my dog out for just a moment. So I'll be right back.
Okay, so you know, I think this is a really big one right now because the nature of online, distance, remote learning, however your school is terming it, it is definitely a get together, have a meeting, and then throw the net out and send people off to do work, and then get together and throw the net out, and then, you know, kind of keep that rhythm going, a lot like you would see in a classroom. We're switching gears in a classroom every 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh,
and
really?
So, yeah. And so you really, when you've got a list, like, let's just say, I know that there's different models out there, and I know that some kids are checking into a conference and then being set off to do their tasks. I know that some children have a conference at the beginning of their school day, and then they're set free for the remainder of the day. And so no matter how it's being implemented from your school, you're still finding learners who have some big task lists and things to accomplish, and that can get really overwhelming. That can become contentious with the child and the parent. You know, there can be that bit of nagging. Have you done it? Have you done it? Is it done? All of that. And so a goal with a laundry list would be to see how you and your child, now this is not the hovering piece or the micromanaging, but kind of look at that list with them and decide, you know, make some decisions. Have them have choice. Often my two will pick what's hardest and get it out of the way. Some days they'll decide they want to knock out their easier stuff first and do the harder stuff in the afternoon. But they're very intentional, and we truly kind of discuss, okay, this looks like a lot, you know, a heavy language arts block of things to accomplish today. And then we kind of work on breaking those things up, because there's not a child, and not even a 6th, 7th, 8th grader, that can sit sustained and work and work and work and work and work. And that is, you know, so chunking it out in little tasks. Some things need to be set in small goals. And what I have found that's been working really well around here, it will be different in everyone's home. But if the work list seems too long, to truly intentionally make little blocks of time where they might say, okay, we're going to do our math, and then we're going to go shoot basketballs for 15 minutes. And then we're going to come back in and read and do whatever, comprehension work goes with that. And then we're going to set the timer again and go, I don't know, ride a bike or play with the dogs. But they're truly like, now that we're into this, the discipline of them setting timers and understanding, I finished math. Now I'm going to set a timer to go. I've got to move. I've got to have a brain break. I've got to get my blood pumping and go do something. By and large, they'll come back after they've had that movement. They'll come back and just get right back into the fold. And that's not just H and Mamie. That would be a learner in a classroom. I mean, you want them moving about. You want them constantly switching gears from tasks, not always book, paper, those kinds of things. You don't want them always listening to a lecture. You want to be sure that they're having a variety of different experiences.
And that's one of the ways in which children learn that you and I did not benefit from way back in the day.
Exactly.
Because I remember having an hour of class and it was pretty much a lecture. But that makes a lot of sense. So a timer, therefore, is important. So they know from one time to the next when, all right, I've got this amount of time in which to do something.
Well, and you'll be surprised if you get to ride your bike or you get to go shoot some basketballs, you'll be surprised how much quicker they attend to a task.
Oh.
If there is no carrot and there is nothing except that giant list ahead of you to just keep plugging through, you'll notice that they'll dawdle a lot more. But when they've got something, and there again, that circles back to that choice that I was talking about. If we can empower these learners to be like, you know what, math or science or reading, this is just really hard for me. So I think I'll go ahead and get that out of the way.
Okay.
And then that's a choice that learner makes intentionally. And then that learner also knows, if I can get through this, then I'll get to go do whatever it is I love to do. If it's watercolor, if it's just lay on the floor with some books and the dog, if it's, I don't know, slide down the stairs on a carpet. I have no clue what makes everybody happy. But there's stuff that your child can go do they're earning those rewards by getting that math done or getting the science done. They can then go do something that makes them happy, gets them moving before they buckle back in.
Okay, so doing small tasks and rewarding those small tasks is certainly one way you can support them. Well, what if they're really having a hard time with this kind of learning environment on the screen?
Yeah, and I would think that there's probably a lot of that going on, and I think that there are a number of ways that we can support them if it is really, really hard. I think first and foremost, and any classroom teacher would probably tell you this, keeping your cool head and not letting them see you become unhinged, because I feel confident as a mom and as a new homeschool mom, this is new to me as well, but I feel confident it's been pretty hard for families. I mean, it is a lot. And you've got people who are, I'm blessed to not be working right now, but there's many people who are trying to do their job while they're doing this. So I think first and foremost, keeping a calm head and not letting them see that you're as frustrated by it as you probably are. I think helping to maintain your composure can help them stay positive about it and realize that, yes, it is challenging. I mean, of course, put words to it, always. Just, I mean, there's no sense in swishing it under the rug and saying, well, there's not a problem here. You say, gosh, this is really hard and this is confusing and these are things we need to figure out, but rather than come unhinged, let's just kind of try to work through them. And staying positive, and there again, trying hard not to micromanage. I mean, you're going to see your children probably not doing some things they're being asked to do. And that's just real life. I mean, I have had to sit back and watch one or two not finish something or not even do something that I know is due on Wednesday, but I have to kind of let them, of course, age appropriately. I need to let them have some consequences, and I cannot, it would serve no one for me to go through and check. Now, if they were 4, I would definitely have to have a different mindset. So I think that you need to kind of age appropriately know that the activities your teacher's choosing are age appropriate.
Okay.
And the work that they're giving them is age appropriate. Now, it may not be age appropriate to sit and do that list all in a row. That would go back to what we were just talking about. But really, the goal would be helping them towards independence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably going to be that measure of definitely, I mean, you know, I think just trying to keep emotions at bay, because they're going to be there. The emotions are going to be there, and we'll address that again in a minute or two. But hoping to give them confidence and independence, I think, is the main.
Well, and I think it's key, and something you said that I think that, you know, I know it'd be very hard for me because I would want to hover or micromanage because I wouldn't know what I was doing. And I think probably many parents fall into that because they're not stay-at-home, they're not teachers. They don't know that, you know, that it maybe 20 minutes of study and then some movement and, you know, those types of things are important, and they help children learn. You know, we only have to refer back to what we know. But, you know, you as teachers, my goodness, I mean, I appreciate you every day of the week, even that mine are now grown, because I don't know that I would have had the wherewithal to homeschool and to deal with something that, you know.
Well, I can say, even as a teacher, I definitely would not. It's just not my, you know, I mean, I can, it is a hard job. And I think, I hope people heal that. And I hope people understand that it's not easy. It comes fraught with a lot of different things, you know, your emotions, your interpersonal relationships between child and parent and student, if you've got more than one at your house. And so it's a lot, especially in times of uncertainty. I mean, there's definitely a piece of this where everybody's learning all at once.
Well, for example, what if something's going on in the screen and you see your child just sort of doodling or, you know, doing something else, or maybe they want to be on their phone, or phones are taken away during this time, right? But, you know, they're doodling or they don't seem to be paying attention. Are they really paying attention?
You know, I would say more often than not, they are paying attention. It's interesting. You will be able to tell if your child is completely checked out, but it's really counterintuitive, because people think that a child should be sitting and quiet and still and looking. But if you go in a classroom, it is chaos, and it is organized chaos, and it is constant motion, and it is movement. And, you know, it may be that you have a boy who he'd be better off bouncing a ball while he's listening, or tossing a ball back and forth. I have rarely ever asked a third grade boy to sit down. If you just say, go ahead and stand up, you'd be surprised. So that movement, they can stand and work, they can lay on the floor, they can doodle while they're listening, unless you notice that they're so checked out and they're not working. And that may not be something that comes to pass until they're doing that independent work. And you may be like, well, you know, I noticed that you were, you know, twirling around and not paying any attention when that math lesson was happening. So maybe tomorrow you better plug into math. And there again, let that be on them. I mean, there's definitely things we're going to have to help them with, but helping them to understand. And children are just constant motion. And the more we let them do that, the better they listen and the more they absorb.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, what happens if this really isn't going well? I mean, what do you recommend?
Like I said, you know, I think there's, you know, we live in a Pinterest world. So there's a reality that everybody's running around with their hair, you know, everybody's just like, oh, what is going on? This is so hard, and this is a new thing, and this is all that. So there's the reality, but then there's also the expectation. And the expectation is, I think people are putting a lot of pressure on themselves to think that I've got to get my child a degree in aeronautical science. And that's not what's going on right now.
Oh my.
You know, I mean, they really are. I think if you give yourself a lot of grace and you give your child a lot of grace, and you really try to strive for that positive working relationship and addressing those things when they come up, like our anxieties and our emotions and those kinds of things, and helping them grow through this is a far more valuable thing than the objectives on whatever math paper they're working on.
All right. Well, what happens? Talk about emotions. What happens if your child just has a meltdown because they can't get this math problem? And it's easy. It's just, you don't have the teacher there that you can really sort of go and ask. I mean, it's always person. So, you know.
Well, now those frustrations and the emotions, they're going to be present, whether there's a trigger like a hard math problem or seemingly just out of the blue. And I think that comes in hand with where we are and what we're dealing with as a society. Anytime emotions bubble up, I think that what's worked for me best in the past is to first and foremost validate the child's thoughts and feelings. Of course you feel upset. Of course this is hard. Of course I understand, and it makes sense to me why it would be like that. And then start to encourage some expression on their part, and then start to tackle the problem, equipping them with positivity and helping them understand that for sure it is hard, but we can work towards a solution. And you know, sometimes maybe you just can't. Maybe that problem just has to wait, and the child has to reach out to the teacher and let them know. I know mine are constantly emailing back and forth. I didn't get this. I don't have that. There's times for them to have extra help and that kind of stuff. I don't know how other schools are working, but it's more important for the classroom teacher to understand that the child is not objectively getting what's being asked of them instead of you guys finding an answer.
Right.
So I think definitely validating those thoughts, feelings, and then helping them express them as best they can. And there again, the goal is to be sympathetic, but direct them back towards progress and positivity.
Okay, well, great. Well, what about misbehavior? I read something the other day which totally floored me, that this 10-year-old had taken a picture of herself and somehow been able to post it in front of the computer, and her mother caught her playing with the dog, you know, downstairs when she was supposed to be upstairs listening to, you know, to the teacher. What about these kinds of, I was impressed by that. I don't know that I could do that. I barely figured out how to do Zoom today. So, I mean, but, you know, we have a very savvy generation that's coming up. And
We do.
So what about, you know, non-compliance and misbehavior? I mean, what would you recommend there to help them?
I mean, I think we all know, based on our audience here of small, crafty children, we're going to come across these things in all of our houses. I mean, I now have a learner who must always have his camera on. That way he can't go dark. Like we noticed Jordan has she's listening in, but we can't see her. So that didn't necessarily work for said learner. And he now has to always be, you know, face-to-face, eyeball with the classroom. And so when the non-compliance and the misbehavior comes across, it's going to their children. I mean, that's part of their job, is to test their limits and see what they can do. But I would say I'm not someone who goes looking for things that maybe aren't there, but I would say in this current situation, I would spend a little bit of time kind of digging around and deciding, is this truly a misbehaving, or is this some other symptom of anxiety showing up in a different way, or the fact that they're frustrated and they can't demonstrate that.
Or fearful of the situation.
Yeah, or completely overwhelmed. I mean, there's so many things that could be going through that this is a way to control. Often misbehavior is a cry for help, a need for attention, or a way to control a situation that's not feeling very good. So I would stop and I would think carefully that, I mean, children do not have the words to express things that they're feeling. And so often they will act out in some way. And the goal, I think, here is that when the misbehavior happens, is it that I'm savvy enough to know my camera's off and I can be behind the desk playing on my, whatever puzzle I have? Or is it that I really, truly am crying out for some help?
So importance is to pay attention, but don't micromanage.
Exactly.
To address the behaviors. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's going to be times when I am sure consequences need to come into play. And I mean, I think that we as parents, I have found myself being maybe a little squishier than I might be in the classroom and thinking, oh, well, they're learning and they're trying. But, there comes a point where you've got to just set that expectation. And if that expectation is not met again and again and again, and you have dug and you've decided that this is truly just sowing the oats, then you still need to bring those consequences into play.
Right. Okay. Well, final thoughts.
I'm appreciative that y'all have started this, and I look forward to some other ones.
Maybe we need to say, Jordan, do you have any questions?
Jordan? Questions? She's not going to turn on her mic. I will say, there she is.
Hi. So I don't have any questions, but I thought that was great. That gave me a really renewed energy for what we're doing.
Oh, thank you.
And because, I don't know what week we're on, but it can get a little
getting old.
It can get a little tedious.
It can get old, yes.
Our whole family has listened, so we're all feeling very encouraged.
Oh, hello everybody.
Everybody say hi.
Hi.
Say hi
Thank
to
you
Mother
for
Nancy.
listening.
Hi, guys. Yeah.
So it just made me feel good about it that everything I feel is just kind of the way it is. Everything's fine for us as far as just what the situation is.
Right.
There's no big problems. It's just what it is.
But it is what it is. Well, in the weeks to come, we're going to be looking at a couple of other types of things where I'm trying to get together a panel that will address depression and isolation that that we're all feeling in this particular time, and ways that we can sort of help to combat that. I'm encouraged to see so many people exercising on the streets. It's sort of like the days when I grew up, when everybody was riding bikes or out walking or visiting at a very safe distance. And it's sort of nice to see this kind of thing. It's sort of sorry that a pandemic has helped us to sort of appreciate one another and that type of thing. But we're also looking at the coronavirus itself. Dr. Annie Egan is going to be with us, I'm hoping next week, and we can, ask some questions. James Holier had mentioned that he's interested in doing some sort of musical interlude, so hopefully we'll have some fun things as well. But if y'all are interested in anything in particular, please let me know as I'm beginning to put these weeks together, and I will look into it.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, and then for anyone that comes back to this recording at a later date, reach out to Mother Nancy and I if you want any more resources. I have a number of articles. One of them is helping your children with some motivation. Another is prayers for homeschoolers, because I have found that's what's getting me through all of it. Definitely some great resources there. And then also I wanted to mention that my favorite book ever came to me from a friend who lives in California named Claire, and it's called Praying the Scriptures for Your Children. It's written by Jody Burnt. I can't ever say her name, Berndt. But it's such a great resource and such a great book. It does have a section on school and your child is a learner and a student, but it also runs the gamut from anything you might want to be praying for your children. So let us know through email if you have any questions or you want any of those resources.
Oh, yes, indeed. Final thoughts, Christine?
Good luck. Good luck. And they can do it. That's probably the most important thing. I mean, they can do it. And Jordan, it makes me happy to know that y'all have gotten a little shot in the arm, because I think it has been long and it has been a challenge for a lot of people. And now we're kind of in those like lull days where it's just becoming so monotonous. So it's important to remember that it is important work that we're doing, and that it is our learners' job to actually do this. We're not just sending out busy work.
Absolutely. Christine, you are definitely an angel and a wonder, and I so appreciate your knowledge and your insight, especially as I look towards my grandchildren. So I really do thank you for being with us tonight. and kicking off this
Thank you for having me.
webinar. So thanks a lot, and may the Lord continue to bless you and keep you and hold all of you fast, and to help us be safe, so that we may all in truth worship and glorify God together at some point in time soon. Amen.
Amen.
All right, blessings and all. Thank you so much.